All right, let's dive into a pretty wild idea from one of the world's top mathematicians, Terence Tao. He's making the case that AI isn't just another scientific tool, it's actually changing the very fabric of how we discover things. Let's see what he means.
So, let's start with a big question to get our heads spinning. What if the next huge leap forward for humanity doesn't come from a single brilliant aha moment? What if it looks more like, well, like sheer brute force? This one idea is key to understanding this whole new world we're stepping into with AI.
To really get what this is all about, we've actually got to go back in time, way back, to a fantastic story about the astronomer Johannes Kepler. It's a story about a truly beautiful idea that turned out to be totally, completely wrong.
Okay, so picture this. It's the late 1500s. Kepler is running with Copernicus's crazy idea that the Earth orbits the Sun, not the other way around. But Copernicus thought the planets moved in perfect circles. Kepler, though, he had a theory he thought was even more perfect. The only problem? He needed data to prove it. And not just any data, the best, most precise data on the planet, which belonged to a guy named Tycho Brahe.
Now, Kepler's idea was it was pure mathematical poetry. He was convinced that the orbits of the 6 planets we knew about back then fit perfectly inside one another, nested within these 5 shapes, the Platonic solids, the only perfectly symmetrical 3D shapes that can possibly exist. For Kepler, this wasn't just math, it was the divine blueprint of the cosmos itself.
I mean, it was gorgeous, right? So elegant. A vision of perfect harmony where everything just clicked into place. It had to be true. Except it wasn't. When Kepler finally got his hands on Tycho Brahe's super-accurate data, his beautiful theory just didn't work. It was off. Not by a lot, just about 10%, but that was enough. His perfect, God-given model, it was a bust. So the real question is, what did he do next?
And this is where Terence Tao comes in with a totally brilliant modern connection. He says that Kepler's long, frustrating struggle looks a whole lot like how a modern AI actually thinks.
Tao calls Kepler a high-temperature, large language model. When you set an AI to be super creative, to be a little weird and random, that's what high temperature means. And that was Kepler. For years, he just generated one wild idea after another, throwing them all against the hard, cold facts of Brahe's data to see what would stick.
So you end up with this thing we can call the Keplerian loop. See, his genius wasn't one lightning bolt of inspiration. It was a grind, a relentless cycle of trying something, testing it, failing, and then doing it all over again, for years. Until, finally, he stumbled onto a completely different pattern that fit the data perfectly. Planets don't move in circles, they move in ellipses.
And if you want to know just how random his ideas got, get this. In the very same book where he published his revolutionary third law of planetary motion, he also had this whole theory about planets having musical notes. And the reason for all the suffering on Earth? Well, obviously, it's because our planet's notes were mi, fa, mi, for misery and famine. Seriously, he was just trying anything.
So if today's AI can basically do what Kepler did, but generate millions of ideas a second, that's amazing, right? Well, yes, but it also creates a brand new kind of problem.
Here we get to the absolute heart of Terence Tao's argument. For centuries, the hardest part of science was coming up with a smart hypothesis. That was the prestigious part. But now, with AI, that cost has basically dropped to 0. Ideas are cheap.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. The whole game has been flipped on its head. Generating ideas, that's the easy part now. But verifying them, actually testing them to figure out if they're brilliant or just total nonsense, that has become incredibly hard and expensive. The bottleneck in science has moved.
Tao has a perfect, kind of gross word for this. He says, without a good way to check all these ideas, they just become slop. We're basically at risk of drowning in a sea of AI-generated theories, and the new, crucial job of science is to somehow find the real gems in all that noise.
So what does this all mean? Are scientists out of a job? No, not at all. It means the future is all about a new kind of partnership, one where humans and AI each lean into what they do best.
And their skills really are opposites. Think about it like this. AI has incredible breadth. It can explore the entire map of known science, trying millions of old tricks on millions of new problems. But humans, we have depth. We're the treasure hunters. We can pick one spot on that map, one really hard problem, and just dig and dig for years, even inventing brand new tools to help us. So why can't AI just dig for the treasure too? Well, as Tao says, AIs right now are just really, really bad at recognizing partial progress.
They can't see a promising clue halfway down and say, okay, let's focus on this.
He calls them jumping machines, and that is a perfect description. They can make these incredible leaps from the starting point, and sometimes, bam, they land right on the solution. But they can't climb. They can't find the little handhold halfway up a cliff and pull themselves up from there. That methodical, step-by-step climb, that's still a uniquely human thing.
Okay, so this whole new dynamic, this human-AI partnership, it actually forces us to reconsider something really fundamental. What does progress in science even look like? And the answer is, well, it's not what you think.
Get ready for this, because this is a wild piece of history that most people don't know. When Copernicus first proposed his correct model with the sun at the center, it was actually less accurate at predicting where the planets would be than the old, wrong model with the Earth at the center. How is that even possible? It's possible because progress isn't a straight line up. See, that old, wrong theory from Ptolemy had been patched and tweaked and fixed with little corrections for over 1,000 years to make it work. Copernicus's new idea was fundamentally better, but it was just the first draft. It was incomplete. So at first, the right idea actually looked like a step backward, until Kepler came along and finished it. A correct but partial theory can easily look worse than a complete but wrong one.
And that brings us right back to today. Tao suggests we're living through our own cognitive Copernican revolution. For centuries, we've thought of human intelligence as the center of the universe. Now, we're having to decenter ourselves and learn to appreciate and work alongside these new, different, and honestly kind of strange forms of intelligence.
Which really leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. In a world where AI can spit out a nearly infinite supply of answers, maybe the most important human skill isn't finding solutions anymore. Maybe, just maybe, it's getting really, really good at asking the right questions.